And it showed me connecting to others. Are y'all hearing me okay, Karen?
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, I had another message telling me I was connecting again. So I thought, okay, did I lose something? That's strange. Okay. So as I mentioned, we're going to be going over remote assessment and TRC Espanol and Q&A. You can put questions that you might have in the chat box. And then Taryn will let me know. Or I think Rich, was Rich going to be the co-host after all? Or
No, I'll do it.
okay. And you can, she'll just let me know when you might have any questions. We also will be referring you to a Q&A that we have available. So again, I'm Diana Garza. I've been with Amplify for over 16 years. My background is all in elementary education. I taught second, first, fourth special ed, and I was a bilingual teacher throughout in the classroom. And then I worked with curriculum the last few years before I went on with Amplify. So I've been with Amplify quite some time. And just know I retired early. So really aging myself here. But as I go into remote assessing, want to talk to you about Schoology, which is how you will navigate to Schoology through your lausc.net address. To get access to our assessments, you simply select the M-Class icon, M-Class assessment, and it will take you to the M-Class assessments. Just as a reminder for those of you who may not be aware of that. I am going to spend some time talking about this one, which is on our site. It's Dibble's remote testing tips, tricks, and links. So let me go ahead and click on this. And I believe that Alyssa generally would put a link to this.
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay, great. And this is where you will be able to prepare in advance for your assessment, for your conferencing, and has the tips for remote assessing. So I'm going to go to that now. And it's about 3 pages. So I'll walk through the different pieces. I'm not going to go on every little piece. But one of the things I do want you to know first off is that for added flexibility, EDEL and TRC assessment windows have been extended to November 13th. So going beyond what is expected for the Dibbles 8, but has been extended for you. So please be aware of that. And then as you prepare for your assessments, there is a section of basically a checklist of things to do on how to create your scheduling for completing the assessments. There's a sample testing schedule there. And then how to send information via Schoology or Blackboard Connect to parents to set up the appointments. There is a link to an English and Spanish parent letter and even a video if you want to set up your appointments for the parents to meet with their children to give this assessment. That is as you, again, prepare for the assessment. Now, when you prepare yourself for the student materials, you need to familiarize yourself with the materials you might be needing. There is a link to access the TRC Spanish materials. I actually have one of my books open from TRC. You're going to see it right here. I've opened that up already because it's something I'm going to be showing you in a little bit. So let me go ahead and go back to this site. And then as far as downloading EDEL materials, you could simply click on here. And I believe I have some of my EDEL materials open also. Here's some of my EDEL materials. These are, I believe I selected first grade. Yeah, these are the first grade materials for EDEL. So if you haven't given this, just go past all of this upside down. This is basically if you were to print this out for paper pencil. And starting further down, you will see where you would share your screen with the material. So here's a sample of nombramiento de las letras. And as I move on, you will see palabras sin sentido, the student practice, and then the materials. And then as I move on in this first grade one, they won't give this till middle of the year, but you will see the passages also for lectura oral. So those links are there in this piece for you to get both TRC Espanol and EDEL materials. So as I scroll down, to prepare in advance for your video conferencing, you want to make sure that in your device, you see 2 windows side by side while assessing. I'll be demonstrating that, and I'm going to show you a video in just a little bit. You want to make sure that your student materials are on your computer and you're sharing them with your student. So you would only basically share a window. And again, we'll be watching a video about that in a moment. Log on to Schoology and click on the M-Class Assessment app, start your Zoom meeting, and then admit your student. And then, of course, when you're assessing remotely, you want to spend a little bit of time talking to them, you know, just getting them in a relaxed, positive testing environment. I was doing a session yesterday where teachers were asking about kinder students and how they have not been assessed. And so we were talking about, you know, spending some time with the kinder children and talking with them a little bit before you start that assessment, wanting them to feel relaxed and so forth. So, again, you want to use your share screen button in your Zoom meeting to select and display the student materials. And then, of course, you will administer this remotely. And at the end of each measure, you indicate that you've tested remotely. We have some people still joining us. And then, of course, after the assessment, you can show the student their score and give them some positive feedback. And you want to make sure you sync your data. Syncing is so important because we'll make sure that we have received that information, and you'll be able to then see that information in web reports. Any questions on this piece? All right, so again, as I talked to you, mentioning about how you want to set this up, in this example, we see a modified setup using one computer, where the teacher will be sharing the student materials on the left side, but on the right side, this is the assessment itself. She's only sharing this window, and then she can open up her assessment on the right side so that she can be scoring the student as they're reading the nombramiento de las letras, and then of course, leaving open her window so that she can see this child in the video conference window. So again, one window for sharing, one window for scoring, and the video conference. Now, obviously, if you have two devices, that would be great. Then you would just be sharing your window and assessing on your separate device if you have that, but it can certainly be done on one computer. So I'm going to show a video to familiarize yourself with the setup. And so let me get to that now.
Hi, this is Alyssa. I'm an M-Class coach with Amplify, and today I'll be doing a quick tutorial on how to set up your devices if you are conducting remote assessment using Zoom. The first thing that I'll do is I'll open up the PDF of student materials that I've already downloaded from the University of Oregon website. I'll click on that, which I like to keep on my desktop, and make it reduce it a little bit so it's only taking up half the screen. Then I'll scroll down to the set of materials that I need. You may have already noticed that this PDF contains all the assessments for the entire school year. So you want to be sure that you find the one that you're actually going to be using and have that open. I'll be conducting the oral reading fluency assessment today. In my second window on my device, I'm going to open up my M-Class assessments in my browser window. I'm going to scroll down to the student who I will be assessing, open that up, and then that's all ready to go. So on my one device, I have my student materials and I have my M-Class assessment window. If I have a secondary device, a touchscreen device, I can open my M-Class assessment window on that touchscreen device. The next thing I'm going to do is open up my Zoom account, click on that, and I'll start a new meeting. Once I make this call, you'll see that my nephew, Dylan, who agreed to help me with this tutorial, will be eagerly waiting to get started. All right, so let's start this meeting. Okay, so once I open Zoom, I admit my student from the waiting room. And are you ready to take your reading assessment? Okay, so yes. I'm going to share my screen. And then I'm going to make sure I don't share the full desktop because I don't want the student to be able to see what I am assessing. I'm only going to share the document that I want my student to see, which is the DIBELS 8 benchmark document. So I click on that, I share it. Once I share it, I can be sure that I've shared the correct document because there's a green outline around what the student can see. Then I'll bring forward this window, my class window, I like to shrink down the video so it's only the student showing, and I'll move it out of the way. So I like to move it down to the bottom here. I might make it a little bit bigger by dragging out the corner so I can see him. And then I'll get started. So I'll select the oral reading fluency. I'll check with the student that he can see the document. Are you able to see the document? Are you able to see the story? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I'm going to read you some instructions. So please read this out loud.
Is new organs, it cannot swim. This, it is,
Okay, great. You can stop there. You did a great job reading. So the pop-up menu opened up. I close that up. I say yes, it was remote assessment. I'll click and hold on the last word to be finished. And that assessment is done. All right, you did a great job. You're all set. Thanks, Dylan.
Bye.
Bye.
The face he makes is so cute. Are there any questions, Taryn, in the chat box regarding any of the setups or so far?
No. Yeah, we would like to welcome everyone. If you have any questions, please feel free to just unmute yourself and speak up. Thanks.
So again, the key points are to open the PDF for the student materials, open the browser window, log into mClass, call the student on Zoom. You want to make sure you share their screen, so you would share just that one window with the student materials, and then of course score your responses on your device. So I'm going to do talk to you a little bit about TRC Espanol, and then I'll do a quick little demo myself of how I would set up a screen, and I'm going to let you see some of the scoring because I know we will have time to do that. So I'll be sharing that in just a minute. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about TRC Espanol. Some of you may be familiar with it, some of you may not, but I am going to let you know that we have an online course available where you can learn about TRC Espanol. Again, this is available through your, you log into my PLN at achieve.lausd.net. And Taryn, would you be able to put that in the chat?
Yep, I'm doing it right now.
And so when you go to this course, you will be able to get some training on TRC Espanol. If you're not familiar with it, this is a sample of what it looks like. It's a great self-paced course. I have it open just to show you. I'm not going to go into the course right now, but just to let you see that I do have it open. And it's a great little course on learning all about TRC. TRC, if you're not familiar with it, assesses students to find their instructional reading level. You have books, kits that are being sent to the school for TRC Espanol, if you choose to use that. And then we have put on the website one copy of the leveled readers, one copy of each level for the level readers. They're leveled from level A to level Z. The advantage to giving TRC Espanol is, yes, you give EDEL and you will find the students, if you are a second grade teacher or higher in EDEL, or you will get the students' score from fluency in lectura oral. However, first grade doesn't give that to middle of the year, kinder doesn't give it at all. So by giving TRC Espanol, you'll be able to compare your scores, and that just gives you more information on your student. Keep in mind when you're giving EDEL, you are giving it on grade level. TRC will move down to the student's instructional level. So it may move up and down, and then it'll indicate when we find their instructional level, whether they're at benchmark, below benchmark, and so forth. And so that helps you to identify, one, their instructional level, two, an independent level, and also their frustrational level. And it will help you when you create groups. Another nice thing is that this data will carry on as we move forward in future years. So you can learn a lot about it. There's a section on remote administration, the scoring. If you've given a reading record, a running record, paper, pencil, basically you're giving a running record on a device. And we call it a reading record. And that's what Registros de Lectura de TRC is. And then there's some sample scorings that you can look at and you can practice with. So something self-paced, I highly recommend you to take some time to look at this course and learn all about it. And there's also the section of vocabulario, which is a piece that is very nice to have in regards to vocabulary for your students. And then of course, some practice built in.
Diana, we have a question from Yesenia.
Yeah, Yesenia, go ahead.
Thank you. It's the same question Alma asked. So just to clarify, Kinder does not have to take TRC?
You can take either or, EDEL or TRC. TRC is available for kindergarten all the way up. That's what's a nice piece about it. Kindergarten actually has a section within it that assesses print concepts and reading behaviors for those pre-reading skills to let us know what do they know about a book. Can they show me left to right? Can they identify a one word in a sentence, 2 words in a sentence, not naming them, but just pointing to those words, just basic pre-reading skills. So it's a nice, it gives you nice information for a kinder teacher to see where your children are coming, what information they're coming with in regards to literacy and book knowledge. Not reading at all at that point, but if they are more advanced, it can definitely assess their reading ability also.
Thank you.
So just to let you know, an instructional reading level is when a student's reading with 90 to 94% accuracy and is proficient in comprehension. So again, in a long way to answer that question, yes, it is available for kindergarten all the way up to grade 6. But again, it is up to your schools whether you want to use this or not. Any other questions? So as I'm going to talk to you a little bit about TRC Espanol, since some of you may not be familiar with it, there is a book set available. There's 54 titles, 2 per level. For remote assessing, there will be 1 per level available, but it is full coverage of guided reading, levels A through Z. These are not translation of books. These are books based on research about Spanish language acquisition. So be aware they're not a translation. Multiple genres are included in the set. Lots of really nice books have been added into this new set for TRC Atlas Español. So I invite you to take some time to learn some of those. And again, you can look at some of those books on that link in the Dibbles Tricks that I gave you. Nonfiction books were also chosen to be included, and they provide students with engaging information. They'll help to build students' content knowledge with high interest images and subject matter that goes across the curriculum, even in history and science. So lots of good information for the children to read about. And then they also have, some of the books will have glossaries built in, photographs, maps, paintings, and artifacts, where the children will be able to look at some of those and answer questions regarding that specifically. So it includes not just original source material, but also complex text and its academic language, which is really nice as you challenge the students with rigorous comprehension questions. It does have some rigorous questioning in it, which I think is great, and a lot of text-dependent questions. So we've also added some optional rubrics to your assessment. You may choose to administer these, they're optional. And let me go to those now. I think my computer got a little bit stuck there. There we go. So included with the TRC measures, we have some people being admitted, are some optional measures of assessing oral language and also vocabulary and spelling. So if you were to give TRC, this is a results screen of TRC Espanol, and it's going to show what level this child might be at. Now notice this child's accuracy is at 98%. So right now this is a child who you're seeing at an independent level, because again, 90 to 94% would be instructional level. An instructional level is where a child can read. They may not know every single word, but you may need to give them some assistance, but you won't give them so much assistance that it affects their comprehension. So when they get given the assessment, you'll see a results screen and you will see the optional oral language. Again, this is for teacher information. Within that oral language, you'll be able to ask them to retell. You're going to look at organization in their retell, the semantics they use when they were given that retell, the syntax, and the fluency in that retell. So it's a nice information for you as you plan instructional opportunities for that student. You'll have that extra piece of information for them. So after you've, like in this the screen that I showed you earlier, we were seeing the story Beto tiene una idea. Now in this sample here, we've used a different book, Jane Goodall, and it's, if you know Jane Goodall, this is obviously a nonfiction book. She is that expert on chimpanzees. So we would tell the student in advance when we open this up, if we give this, that ahora que terminando de leer el libro, quiero que me cuentas sobre lo que leíste. Dame todos los detalles que puedas. So you would ask them to retell the story to you and then score them on a rubric. Each category is rated from 1 to 4 with the teacher using her best judgment to assign a score to a student based on their recount of the story. Retell and recall are available in levels F through Z only, which allows educators to evaluate the student's really understanding of a story based on what his recollection of that passage might be, and then what details they provide. So you can see they range from provee un solo detalle, as opposed to 4. Let me see if I can see that. There you go. I'm not able to show that because this little black thing is in the way, and I have researched everywhere how I can get rid of this, and it doesn't show me, but I'll show you number 4. But just know that it is available in 1 through 4 in retail, and also for organization, which is another piece. We're trying to see presenta las ideas sin prestar atención a la secuencia. So all disorganized, and they were giving that information, as opposed to number 4, presenta las ideas en secuencia. And I'm trying to read the rest of it, but it's not letting me read it. Presenta las ideas en secuencia y utiliza palabras de transición. Okay, there we go. So that is our organization. And again, you would score them on a rubric from 1 to 4. It also lets you score semantics. Again, let me get to that. There we go. This one we can see much better. Usa las palabras incorrectamente. No comete errores es number 4 en el uso de palabras, incluyendo las que tiene varios significados. I'm not going to read all of that to you, but you can see the ranges from 1 to 4 on this also. A 4-point response makes no mistakes in the use of words, including those with various meanings and different nuances in the meanings, or in the use of figurative language. That would be a 4-point response. In semantics, we have someone once wanting to be admitted. And then it also will let you score syntax. In syntax, again, it is on a range of 1 to 4 on the rubric, and the 4-point response there is a student who would use simple, complex text sentences with very few errors. They would be using their nouns and verbs correctly, inflecting the inflection of words correctly, and of course, using verbal tenses correctly. Maybe even using plurals correctly if they added plurals in that sentence as they're retelling that story. So again, you see a range from 1 to 4 in syntax. And then we have scoring for fluency. No habla claramente y vacila con frecuencia. Habla con claridad, a un ritmo fácil de entender y con comprensión, con expresión. And so you'll see the ranging here. And again, you can see they can score from 1 to 4. And what it'll do, it will calculate that score for you. So in the levels A to E, they can get as high of a score as 16. And then starting at level F, that has that additional piece, they can score as much as 20. Again, it is optional. It's more for teacher planning as they plan instruction for their students. And it is not going to be affecting the overall instructional score that the student will receive for their instructional level. It's just more for information for you. Also, we have some additional assessments that are available to you, and that is for spelling, grammar, and word use. Starting at level F, you will see here written comprehension that the teacher administered to the student. These begin at level F. You can access the written comprehension questions off of our website. And notice here that the student was NP, not proficient, P meaning proficient. And that assesses spelling, word use, and grammar if we use the spelling and grammar piece. This is connected to the written comprehension. So again, All of these are optional pieces, but I just want to let you know that they are available for you. So that second, so in this category, when we look at spelling and grammar and word use, you would be able to click and see, we'll actually see the students' responses to those questions and then score them again on these rubrics to evaluate the spelling and the grammar they used in their written responses to the comprehension questions about the story they just read. Are they using simple sentences? Are they using complex sentences? Are they repeating the same sentence structure? Are they only making some errors? And you'll be able to score them on a rubric from 0 to 2 for that. And you'll also be able to assess their use of words. Are they using tier 1 words, basic words? Are they using tier 2 words, which are going to be your more advanced words across the curricular, your tier 2 cross-curricular words? Or are they using tier 3 words in their written responses, which have content area specific usage words in those sentences that they might write? So again, this is optional. If you choose to do the written comprehension pieces, again, it's available on the website, and that is something you would be able to send to the student in advance. And then, but I saw my granddaughters here have been doing their work. They're visiting this week, and they've been doing their schoolwork, and I've been sitting in and watching, being a former teacher, watching to see how the teacher's teaching my grandchildren. And I will say that some of the math was way above my head for my freshman granddaughter. But one of the things that they are doing is taking pictures of their work and then sending it to the teacher that way. So the teacher's able to score it. So just a little example of something that can be done if you choose to use this. Now, I'm going to take you again to reporting now, because here's a sample of the results again. So they can get up to 6 points in spelling and grammar if you choose to give that. I'm going to take you to a sampling of our reports, what they look like online. So if you do choose to give TRC Espanol, you'll be able to see a new dual language report that provides a side-by-side view of student performance. This is a really nice page. It has both English and Spanish assessments. That way it'll help you identify the areas of strength in one language and how you can then support development in the area that's weaker in the other language. So it's a nice little piece. You'll receive instructional recommendations for your students specific to their profile in both languages. And it's going to even help you identify transferable skills from one language to another, which is really, really nice. I know that a lot of you are in dual language schools there in LA. So to be able to see this side-by-side view, you would need to give the English and Spanish, to see the English and Spanish results, you would have to give the TRC Espanol and the vocabulary Espanol. Please note that EDEL 1.0 will be phased out gradually. It's going to take a couple of years for that to be phased out. And that is, we'll be having a new version of EDEL 2.0 that will be coming up. And that'll be in a couple of years. We had to stop field testing because of the pandemic. And so I believe field testing is going to be starting again, probably next semester, I believe. And so they're looking for schools who are interested in field testing. And Taryn, you can talk a little bit about that if you want right now.
Sure. Yeah, no, we have about 15 schools in the district that has signed up. We would love to have more. And if you, I mean, it depends on, it has to be, because we're in the research and development stage. So our plans were to do it this year, but of course without being able to do face-to-face, we hope that we'll be back at schools for middle of the year. And so our data collectors, if your school signs up, our data collectors will come and assess your students for you in the area of our new EDEL measures that we're developing. And then you would then can focus your energy on TRC Spanish. So you're getting a lot of data on your students. And so it's just really exciting. And I know that we get all the time, we want Amplify reading in Español, and we would love that. And we would love to develop that. But in order to do that, we need research and data around the kinds of skills that our students in Spanish literacy, what does that look like, right? And so those are all things that if you and your parents and your families participate in, then that will help us in that research.
Great, thank you. So again, as I mentioned, that will take probably a couple of years before that new version of EDEL will come up, but you certainly would be very helpful in you learning what it has and being able to assist in the field testing for it. So as I was showing here on the screen, when we look at reports, we can also see a benchmark summary of a class. This is a sample of Spanish reporting, and it provides just the organization of the data. And again, TRC Espanol appears alongside vocabulary and spelling when it is administered. You will be able to see your EDEL data here also. Notice that we have a link here for dual language. This is a sampling of the student benchmark history. They selected here in this sampling Tessa. What's gonna be nice is that if you do choose to use TRC Espanol, that will follow your student from grade year to year. I believe, I think Taryn, and I may be incorrect if I say this, that EDEL data will follow them for this year and next year, but once we go to the new version, we will not have the 1.0 data following them. Is that correct? Or do we know that
No.
yet?
Yeah, no, EDEL 1.0 will end this year. So all that data will not be, I mean, they'll have access to see it, but it won't be connected to the new data. That makes
Okay,
sense.
got you. Okay, great. So just some information to have. And also you can print out your reports if you will wanted to print out a class report or a student report, that is available for you to print out also. Okay. Now, one of the nice things that I really love that they've added in a lot of detail for you is the history. You'll be able to see the books the student read, how they arrived at their final reading level. It's always nice to see, you know, in this sampling here, we see a student that was frustrational on this level, but yet was independent on another level. So it's always nice to see the history of what books that they read. Was it a fiction book? Was it a nonfiction book? And that's, again, information for you as a teacher to have about that particular child. There's also group instruction that will be available. Students that have similar skill need and areas of need are grouped automatically based on performance in TRC Espanol and vocabulary. This includes what work the students need to do, what they need to work on, rather. Let me start that over. This includes what students need to work on, and it will also show you what they already know, what they can do and what they need to continue doing. So it's very nice for group instruction. This is also going to be including EDEL data. And then we also have information for individual students in addition. So teacher will be able to see some recommended activities based for the group and recommended activities for individual students, which is really helpful for you as you're planning for that student. And then, of course, you will be able to click on the probe details. You know, remember those rubrics that I mentioned to you earlier? You'll be able to open up those probe details and see how you scored those rubrics. So that will be available in addition. Home Connect letters are also available. In this sampling here, you will see the nivel de lectura TRC en Español, where that child ended up at. And then, of course, you will be able to also see EDEL data in the Home Connect letters. They are available in English and in Spanish for both for the parents. And many schools tend to use these maybe at your, I'm sure you're doing these remote conferences with parents. This is something you could share with parents once you have that information. So those Home Connect letters are really, really helpful. Any questions so far? I'm going to do a quick sampling of how you would use each of these. I'm going to do it just very quickly, show you TRC Espanol, and I'm going to show you very quickly how I would set up for EDEL. So let me go ahead and do that now. So if I was going to be giving an EDEL measure, let's say in this instance, I chose nombramiento de las letras, I would simply show that here to the student. And again, I'm showing you my entire screen just for demonstration purposes today, but you would just be sharing the one screen. And then I will get my assessment up, which is right here. I would be setting that up in advance. And I think it timed out, so I'm going to probably have to put in my password.
Diana, we have a quick question.
Yes.
While you're pulling that up. Let's see, Ms. Mena Acevedo asks, if a student answer is unintelligible in TRC, do you score it as told or a substitution? And then what happens?
Unintelligible, I would give them a told. If you cannot understand what they're saying, remember, give them about 5 seconds per word and then tell them the word. And I'll mark it as a told.
And then the second part to that question is, what happens when the whole sentence is answered that way?
You would mark every single word incorrect. Now, there is a frustration button. Let me show you that. If an entire sentence and you can tell the student cannot read that, let me show you how that will look. I'm going to go into my TRC, to my Español right here, select a student, and let me select a first grader right here. And I'm going to go into TRC. Okay, and here's some of my reminder information for me. And I'm going to select a level D book because that's what I'm going to be showing you in just a moment. And actually, I'll move this one down because I'm not going to use that. Here's my level D book. I would in advance, just as I'm going to answer your question. Don't worry, I will answer your question, but I'm going to show you some things as I'm doing that. I'm going to minimize this to make it fit correctly for the student on the screen, because I'm going to be scrolling for them to read this because I'm sharing the screen with them. So I want this to fit correctly so they can see both the text and the illustrations. So there it is right there, ready to go. All right, so back to the question on frustrational. When I select the book, I'm going to go to begin. And again, we're going to do this untimed. I would read this prompt, but I'm going to go to begin so that you can see there is a frustration button here. Okay, so I'm going to do this untimed when I do this remotely, just because you're going to be manipulating 2 devices or maybe 2 tabs within one computer. So if you see a student missing an entire word and unintelligible, I would probably hit frustration. Okay, that is an optional piece right here for you. If they're just not making any sense and you're not able to understand anything, just hit the through button and end it. Okay, so since I have this up, let me just do a quick little, again, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'm just going to do a quick little sample of what this would look like if you're giving this remotely. You would be scrolling for the student as they're going to be reading page by page. Okay, so here I'm going to start with this piece here. I'm going to put it right here. Get this back up. And I skipped my prompt, so I'm going to go to that prompt. I need that to go out of the way. There it is. So I would read this prompt to the student first. En este cuento, un cerdito camina por la granja para descubrir si es especial. Leamos el libro para ver lo que sucede. And of course, I didn't read every little piece of that, but you get the gist of that. I'm going to hit begin. And again, I would do it untimed, just because you are manipulating either 2 tabs or a different device if you have it separate. So at this point, I would then scroll for the student, and I would show them where they need to start reading. Empieza a leer aquí and show them, and then I'm not gonna keep using the cursor. I'm gonna let them read on their own. One of the things you do want to ask a student in advance is whether they have a touch screen device, because mine is a touch screen, and when I put my finger on here, you see how these little marks pop up? You don't want that to happen to the student while they're reading, or that it takes them somewhere else. So find out in advance if they have a touchscreen device, and if they do, they can always use just a marker or an eraser tip from a pencil as they go across and read instead of their finger, okay? So I'm gonna read as a student, Cerdito camina por la granja, Cerdito mira una bonita oveja. So let's say I said it like that, okay? That would be an error. So I'm gonna go to the word after the insertion. Honestly, it would be oveja bonita, but we're just going to do for practice purposes that they said it this way. And so it would put that insertion in. And then I would keep on scrolling for the student to read. La oveja le dice, yo tengo mucha lana, and another insertion, soy especial. Cerdito piensa, ay no, yo no tengo lana. So another error, and I believe Yesenia and some others have a question. Go ahead and ask me.
You mentioned earlier that TRC is more for kindergarten. They do the basic pre-reading skills. So my students, they all have iPads. How would they be able to show me that they understand the basic reading skills with their one device?
That is an amazing and great question. We do have those questions written, and the original questions have been rewritten for for remote assessing. And Taryn, I believe those are probably available on the site, on those questions, on how you can reword the questions. So I think in in print concepts, it tells the student, enséñame la tapa del libro. So instead of saying that, because they're not there with you, you would show the book and say, ¿Esta es la tapa del libro? And you would ask them that question. And you can change that word tapa. That is the word that's listed on here. A lot of people complain about that word for the front of the book. You can change it to what you feel is more appropriate for where you're at. But you would show them the book and then ask them that question. ¿Este es la tapa del libro? And then they would answer yes or no. So those questions have been rewritten for print concepts. So that's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you. And what other way would you say tapa instead of tapa? What other word would you use?
I'm going to ask for the audience to come up and give me some other answers, because people have complained about that word. Anyone have any suggestions?
Portada, someone put portada?
La portada, yeah, portada is another word. Here, I would use tapa. Here in San Antonio, that's what we would use. Portada, okay, that's another word.
So no, what about like enfrente? ¿Me puedes enseñar enfrente del libro? Or?
You could say that too. All you're wanting to see, we're not scoring them on their reading. We're wanting to see the action. Can they show you the front of the book? So you would not say, it's just el frente del libro, if you want to say it that way. You're going to ask it as a yes or no question.
Okay, yes or no question.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because you're going to be showing it to them. Okay?
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also important to talk, if you guys are at a dual language school, right, to do articulation so that you're all on the same page and you guys are teaching kids consistently using the same language too, I think is important.
Yeah, I agree. And here's the thing, I want to let you know, for print concepts and reading behaviors only, you can change the wording into English for directions, only for print concepts and reading behaviors. It is not allowed for the actual reading levels, because I know teachers ask me, can we translate and say this in English once we get into the level A and up books? That is not allowed, because we're assessing Spanish literacy skills. But for pre-reading, it is allowed. And I've checked with Gloria on that, because that's a question that's come up several times. And that is allowed just for that, because we're not really assessing reading at that point. We're just assessing behaviors.
So Deanna, I have a copy of the TRC English modified questions for remote assessment. So if that is true, then I can share, because I don't know if a Spanish one exists.
There is not a Spanish one available.
Okay, so I'll share with you guys and I'll put it also in the FAQ,
Okay.
the modified questions that you can use
Great,
for
great,
print
perfect.
reading behaviors.
Thank you. And she did mention those FAQs that are available for you. They have lots of great answers to questions you might have. So you see the gist of what I'm doing. The student, I am scrolling for the student as they're reading, okay? And I'm marking any errors on my device. So as they're reading here, let's say that they didn't know the word especial. We give them about 5 seconds per word, and the teacher told them that word. And so we would mark that as incorrect. And let's just assume that the student has completed reading the whole passage. We hit done. And then this particular passage has a retell and oral comprehension. For the retell, when I go to that, in case you've never given this, you will tell them termina de leer la historia. In these lower level books, it's the whole book. Pídale al alumno que termina de leer la historia si es más larga que la parte incluida en el registro de lectura. In the higher level books, it's about 120 to 150 words in the reading passage for the reading record, and then they'll have to read the rest of the book on their own before they can do the retell or answer questions. So notice it says here, in regards to retell, aleja el libro antes que el alumno empieza a contar la historia. So I would go, let me see if I can get that to hide. We have to hide that book from the student because we don't want them to see it during the retell. And now we would ask him, ahora empieza desde el principio y cuéntame lo que sucedió en la historia. Cuéntame el principio, la parte intermedia y el final. So we hope, and you have a scoring rubric. Get that to go away. You'll have a scoring rubric that will pop up. If I can get to it, there it is. And you'll be able to see some sample answers. And of course, use your professional judgment as they give you, as they retell that passage to you. For the nonfiction pieces, they will be telling you the main idea and some details. And you can see how you would score them accordingly. I'm just going to pretend that the student was able to tell me beginning, middle, and end. And we're going to mark it as, so here's the option for oral language, or we can save and exit. I'm going to save and exit right now so that I can show you the oral comprehension questions. And I want to show you these because if you're not familiar with TRC Espanol, in the oral comprehension questions, ahora te haré algunas preguntas acerca del libro. El estudiante puede volver a mirar el texto para responder las preguntas. We want them to look in the text because sometimes there are many text-dependent questions in here, or they may have simply forgotten a piece of the story. So we encourage them to look back in the text. So at this point, I would put the story back up for the student. And I would be scrolling and I would tell the student that I'm going to be showing the story for them if they want to. And I would remind them, puedes leer otra vez el cuento, okay? And so I would show them that they can read this again. Now you use your professional judgment as to how much time you want to give them because this is testing time. This is not teaching time. So you could remind them if you don't know an answer, puedes leer el libro otra vez, okay? And you could show that to them and scroll for them. But again, use your professional judgment as to how much time you want to give them for that. So this is how you administer, and then this is how you would score it. So we're going to assume that the child was able to answer the 5 questions correctly. And then we're done. And this particular child, you can't really see on my screen. Hopefully I'll move this and it'll show again. This particular child, because it's telling us to go to a higher level book. Remember that we're looking for instructional level, which is 90 to 94% accuracy and proficiency and comprehension. So at this point, we haven't found it for this child. This is an independent level when they're at 95 or higher in their accuracy. 95 to 100 would be independent level because they are also proficient in comprehension. So we would still need to keep going for this child to find their 90 to 94% with their proficiency in comprehension. And then again, your optional oral language is here also, where you would ask them to retell the story to you and you would score that, okay? Are there any questions on this piece? Okay. So as I move on, please know that on your device itself, you can access help from your device. So as I go to my device here, I can go to the top, to the menu. And from right here, I can go to get online help. I can also go straight to my reports. So know that that is available for you. And once you click that online help, which I just showed you, it will take you to our website and you can find online help there. It will take, and then under the support, and this is on our actual website. When you log in, you will see support on the homepage at the top right. And again, you could get many questions answered under support in regards to TRC Espanol and IDEL. Also, we have our tech support available. This is our help number. Feel free to call our tech support when you have questions regarding the program itself or any technical support. We have extended our hours. Also, there is a chat box now available on our home screen. So tap that icon and you could start a conversation with one of the people supporting at Amplify, okay? Pedagogical support, it isn't every day that an educational company actually makes things easy for us educators. I'm not gonna read all of this to you, but this is from a teacher in Texas. We recently had a rollout in Texas and this is just a nice quote from one of the teachers in Texas. You can always email edsupport@amplify.com. And then again, on our home screen, once you get to your home screen, if we have any updates regarding TRC Atlas Espanol, you will simply click on the orange training button and we will see any updates listed there. So again, this is our home screen, orange training button, and that will take you to any updates that we will put in regarding TRC Espanol. Are there any questions? I've listed here for you the microsite address, which has lots of great information, your Schoology group information, and then how to email us. And note that our hours have extended to 7 p.m. Pacific time, Monday through Friday, and we're now open on the weekends. Just because so many schools are remote this year, we felt like we needed to have our hours extended. Any questions? Because we have a few minutes before our time is over.
I do. Good morning. My name is Tania Martinez. I'm Intervention Support Coordinator, and we teach dual language in a team teaching model. And I just wanted to confirm from what Terrence said that normally it takes the admin to create a group where both teachers' rosters are placed in one group so that they can have access. So for example, if I'm the Spanish teacher, not only do I have to assess the kids on my roster, but also the students on my partner's roster.
Right.
But sometimes what that required is us sharing passwords. And so there was no other way before to create one group with both rosters. Is that feature only available to admin, or is it available to teachers as well?
It's now available to everybody since everybody is connected on Schoology. So that person, as long as they have a Schoology account, the person with system access on M-Class, based on the steps on that video that I shared with you, they go ahead and add. So let's say Diana is a paraprofessional and I need to add her to my class so she can help me. I can just search for her on M-Class because I have system access, and then I'll add her to my class. And then once she loads M-Class Portal and the assessment app on her Schoology, then she can do exactly everything that the teacher would be able to do.
Thank you so much for adding that feature. It's something that we've been asking about for a very long time, and we're so happy to have that now. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, it took the approval of the district in order to approve of that, because I know in the past they weren't allowed to assess other than the roster carrying teacher.
Okay. Any other questions you might have? Well, as for myself, as a former classroom teacher, still teaching, but now working with obviously the educational staff. As a former classroom teacher, as a grandma, and as an aunt, I want to thank all of you for the hard work you're putting into doing this remotely. It's not an easy task. I'm seeing what my granddaughters are doing, and the teachers are amazing. So on behalf of Amplify and myself, again, as a grandma, an aunt, as an educator, thank you for all the time and effort you're putting in to educate the kids. I know this is tough, and we truly, truly appreciate it. So with that, we are done for today. Unless there are any other questions, I'll be on the call for a few more minutes.
Mr. Luisaga asked on how to set up the 2 screens for testing. So I don't know if you want to show him that, Diana, or I can also share the link, Mr. Luisaga, for there's a video on that.
Oh,
Diana.
great, because maybe he didn't see the video. Yeah, there's a video on how to do that. And I can very quickly share that too. I simply will get my material. So here is my EDEL material, let's say. I have it here. Let me make it a little bit smaller. And then I will share just this window with my student. I'm not going to share everything. Right now, you're seeing my entire screen. I would just be sharing this window on my Zoom call, okay? And then my assessment will be over here. And let me make that smaller. So I'd have my assessment over here. And then of course, they're not going to see this because this is hidden from them. All they're going to see is this. And you would simply toggle back and forth. And I'm not sure why it's not letting me go split my screen here. I'm having issues at this moment. Here I'm trying to show you and it's not, oh, I know, because it's not a PDF. I didn't open a PDF of this. You'll open your PDF and make it smaller. Let me just see if I can have one open real quickly since I have a little bit of time. I know I have some PDFs in my Chicago folder. Okay, so let's say I have it right here. Get that PDF to open up. I'm sorry, that's taking a minute here. Here we go. I'm impatient, as you can tell. So let me hide that one. We'll open this. Here it is. I would have it on my screen over here. Let me just hide this one behind because that's confusing. All right, I would open this up, make it a little bit smaller, adjust the size. I would hide all these other things. Now keep in mind, they're only going to see this, okay? So we'll make this a little bit smaller. And then I'll get my assessment up and you'll have it side by side, okay? Now I would hide all this behind, but you would have it side by side and then you would select whatever measure. Like this is nombramiento de las letras, which is given in kinder. So let's say I would select that. I would go to my Adele screener, nombramiento de las letras. I would read the prompt to the student. And then of course, they're gonna be seeing this as they're reading it out loud. And in your Zoom meeting, you would also have your picture of your student available here so you could see what they're doing. But we do have a video that explains that in detail.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
I don't see any more.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all for, they might have left the call already, but thank you for joining.